Okay. So I want to tell you about As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner.
Oh, yay.
Is your favorite writer?
I hate William Faulkner. It is William, right? Yeah, it's William.
William Faulkner, yeah. And it really, it was a very, singular experience reading him. For the most part, it's not enjoyable to read the way that some books are like a page turner. You could go through it. But the feeling that I had was afterwards, like when I would think about what I had read, I had these recollections of it being much better than the experience that I had reading it.
So it kind of stuck with you?
Yeah, it stuck with me, and things that are very difficult about him, he changes perspectives. His sentences,
not in a linear fashion.
Non-linear, and his sentences are always very unusual, these constructed sentences. It always seems like it's not a sentence that you would just write out. You have to almost kind of poetic, where you have to think about what exactly he's saying and kind of put it together.
Is it like Mark Twain, dialectical, where you have to read it out loud to get
So I actually thought the same thing. So in this book, each chapter, a different person is telling a version of a story, and each character has their own voice. And to me, this is a modernized version of that. So and it's nothing new. If you read Dickens, almost all of his characters have some kind of verbal tick.
Yeah.
Huckleberry Finn was written so you could phonetically
read it out loud. I remember that. Yeah.
And Huck Finn, there's parts where it's hard to decipher.
Mm-hmm.
So he's doing the same thing.
Is it like Dickens wrote in sort of this British dialect, this sometimes the expressions were very British, e-gum, and is it Southern?
Yeah, it has a Southern drawl, and it actually helps if you kind of read it with that inflection, things kind of start making more sense. So the story is pretty straightforward. It's about a poor farmer's family in Mississippi, where the mother dies, and she made a request that she be buried where she was born. And she was born in a different part of Mississippi, so the family needs to make this trek to get her back to where she asked her resting place
to be. And
you end up hearing everyone in the family's version of what's happening.
Wait, do you hear this? Is the story about them moving the body, or is the story about her and her life?
Moving the body.
Just moving the body.
Just moving the body.
Okay.
And they talk about other stuff. They might have a memory, but yeah, the main plot is moving this body.
Okay. I clearly haven't read the book. I tried to get through the Reavers years ago and made it to page 4.5 and was nope.
He's a difficult writer.
I don't know. There's something about I don't want to have to work for it.
He makes you work for it.
I'm lazy.
He makes you work for it. And actually, sometimes, I like that. Nowadays, you notice that there's a trend of, there's memoirs. Everyone's writing a memoir. And it really is, well, I felt this, and I did this, and this happened.
I like that. It's very linear. I like that. It makes me happy.
There's a lot.
I don't read memoirs, but, I kind of like a linear plot, not
gonna lie. There's a lot
lie.
of that. So he has, a little niche that he has.
Okay, but I always read Faulkner as, it was sort of this pretentious egotism. That, if you were smart, you would recognize that I was a really good writer, and you would be able to get through this horrible, massive gobbledygook. I don't get that from James Joyce, but I've always kind of gotten it from Faulkner.
To me, he seems like a natural, modern extension of where Henry James was going. in Henry James's like later novels. Like,
So you think it's an honest thing?
oh yeah,
Oh, see, I wonder then if we read that differently because of like you're a man and I'm a woman, like, and I sort of think of it as this like male bravado.
yeah, I don't get that. Like,
Okay.
I would see that actually more in Hemingway.
Then again, I made it to page 4.5 of the Reaver, so I may not know what I'm talking about.
But I mean, there's parts of the book that I didn't. A lot of the book that I didn't enjoy. It's like this struggle. But the turning point for me, because what ended up happening was I would start thinking about what I was reading, and realizing that I liked it a lot more, or it was impacted a lot more than I realized while I was reading it. She's like halfway through the book, and you're getting all these different people telling you this story, and then you get to a chapter where you're now at the mother's perspective, and at this point, like, I didn't know what was going on. Like, am I hearing her story like
Posthumously, like from
is
beyond the grave?
Is she already dead? Is she telling her story like? Is it not in sequential order? Like, is this something that happened beforehand? And like this family, they're like these poor farmers. We were talking about like a groundhog earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and like they're like fearful. Like everything that happens, they're like in this little bubble, and they don't have internet. Everything's scary. They don't know what they're doing. They have to do something
That's unusual and out of their usual realm of...
They're out of their wheelhouse.
I hate that expression.
It's not their bailiwick.
That one's better.
And you get this feeling of like a frightful groundhog family constantly...
Furtively.
Like, unlike, if you read a Southern novel by like Capote, where...
Oh yeah, they know they're crazy and they're confident they're crazy.
But there's also like a childhood wonder of the world, like...
Yeah, and there's like this special kind of innocence that...
There's this innocence.
Yeah, and naivete. It's not ever ignorance, it's just this kind of like gentle...
Faulkner gives you this sense of like doom. So like more of that fear of the unknown, which is kind of like they kind of are on this same side of opposite sides of the same coin. And most of the book, like, you have this feeling of like everything's about to fall apart. There's really, really trying to hold it together. Finally, the mother starts telling her story, and she kind of goes like, "I hate them," and all of a sudden, like, everything I had read, like, I started thinking about it, and it turned really funny. And while I was reading it, like, it's almost like terrible things happening, and if it's happening to you, it's just not funny. And then if you think about, what do they say about time healing wounds?
Yeah.
You think, so, like, for one,
The perspective.
they're building, like, there's a guy out, she's dying, right? And one, I don't know, maybe it's the husband or one of the sons, is out there, like, building the coffin in front of her. It's like hammering the thing together. She's just like at her deathbed, like, laying there, and you could hear her going like, what are they doing, So, they screw up, like, everything. Like, what do they do? Like, they drop she's dead in the coffin. As the story goes along, like, they drop the coffin a couple times. They're trying to move it, and it's like falling out. They're going down a hill, and it slides down a hill. They get stuck at this bridge. Like, the wagon goes in the river. Like, at a certain, I think they drown a horse. Like, all of a sudden, it's like this comedy of errors. Like, they're really struggling to do what they want to do, and it wasn't until you got, like, and that's what makes it kind of great. Like, all of these different perspectives isn't to make it more convoluted. It's to, like, and at least what I thought, getting a different perspective can completely change the story that you're hearing. And I think if it was done in a different way, the experience that I would have had would have been different. So, like, at the end of it, like, the more I thought about it, the more I thought it was, like, really great. As I was going through it, it's like going up a mountain where, it's a trial. So, anything else?
No. Would you recommend it?
Not to you.
Well, that's good, because I wouldn't read it anyway, so you can recommend it all you want.
I would say, like, if someone was interested in reading William Faulkner,
That would be the book to start
this would
with.
be a good start. It's like relatively
It's also
short,
smaller than the Reaver's Friends.
and has big print. Everyone loves big print.
And the pages are short.
Yeah, short chapters. It's kind of a breeze. I guess we'll wrap up there.
All right.
You can leave a comment if you'd like. Thanks.
Tell
for
us how much you
watching.
hate Faulkner.
Yeah, if you hate it, let us know.
If you love it, don't leave a comment.